Oh, I see it. Bitcoin versus gold.
Bitcoin versus gold. We are rocking and rolling. Slightly less lumpy than last time. Not by much. Yes. Split screen. Cool. All right. So Thursday. A little bit late. Less than an hour late this time, though. We got our streaming tool. Got our streaming tool working. I'm gonna like our stream right now. Something like that. If you guys are out there watching, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. Subscribed and leave a comment and let us know what you think we should talk about, or what you've enjoyed us talking about, or what you think we did a bad job talking about. We always love the feedback. This week. Well, yeah, we probably love negative feedback more than positive feedback.
Yes.
And if Randy is out there, we definitely want your feedback. So this week, I'm going to put this in technology. This week we're going to talk about Bitcoin versus gold. And there's more to talk about with gold, which is kind of interesting. But I listened to a podcast that my buddy Jake did on his show, Damn Woods, which is I think just damnwoods.com. He had one of the Friends Against Government guys talk about Bitcoin. And what I thought was really interesting about this conversation was the guy he had on to talk about wasn't talking about the technology behind it. He wasn't talking about blockchains. He wasn't talking about Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus EOS. And he wasn't talking about how you could use blockchains to smart contracts. He was basically just a guy who was like, Bitcoin's another form of money. And so who cares about the technology? It's just another form of money. Is it a better form of money than fiat currency? Question number one. Question number two. Is it a better form of money than gold? And what is the metric? What is the merit? What forms a good form of money versus a bad form of money? Right. And this was different. All the other crypto stuff I've seen talked about is like cryptocurrencies can be anonymous, or cryptocurrencies decentralized, or cryptocurrencies are inflation-proof. It's all been technical. And he was just kind of accepting this is money. Is it better or worse than the other monies? And then his analysis was you have what is it? Gresham's law. I think good money drives out bad. So this was the whole thing that in the Middle Ages when you had kings issuing a coin for their kingdom, and they would clip the edges of the coin and turn it into like an octagon, and then they take the little bits, melt them down, and make coins. That's how they did inflation. And the merchants would weigh the coins. And would measure this increase in weight of the coins, and trade them at a discounted rate. And so the coins that didn't get clipped, good money became worth more, and the coins that did get the bad money became worth less. And the good money would stay in circulation, and the bad money was driven. So good money drives out bad. So Jake's guest on this Damn Woods podcast said, okay, apply the same analysis to gold, Federal Reserve notes, and Bitcoin. So here's where he went with that. FRS, Federal Reserve central bank money, is obviously a problem. Right? There's no restriction on inflation. There's a central issuing authority. So it's not decentralized. There's no voting process about it. Not that voting's the end all be all. The participants in the market decide its value really. And it's irredeemable and all these other things. And most of all, it requires centralized banking to work. Okay, so then you have gold. So gold solves a bunch of the Federal Reserve problems. It does actually inflate more like every 20 years or something, 30 years, there's twice as much gold above ground as there was before. So there's always more gold above, but it's limited. It's hard to get out of the ground. You can't just digitally make more. So it has a check on inflation. you can transport a large amount of value by carrying gold. So on one hand, it doesn't require centralized banking. But in practice, to actually use it, you do need to have things like vaults, and you need to have exchanges. Right? You have to physically keep it somewhere. And so there's an inherent degree of centralization. You need centralized storage somewhere. And that could be in your house, or it could be a vault in Switzerland, or it could be actually at a bank. Typically, gold is held in banks. So then he says apply the same analysis to Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin solves the FRN problems. It's not inflationary. You can't make more of it. In fact, it's less inflationary than gold. There's a set number of Bitcoins that will ever be mined, and in like 5 years or something like that, there won't be any more ever. Okay, problem one solved. And then problem two, the value of it's not determined by a central value of it's determined by a market exchange rate. It's totally 100% market value for its value. And then number three, it does not require central banking to be used at all. In fact, it can only be through the decentralized Bitcoin network. And so it solves the exchange and storage problem that gold can't solve. And so his conclusion was setting aside all the technical discussions about cryptocurrencies, just looking at it as money, and good money drives out bad, Gresham's law. It appears from that analysis that Bitcoin actually has a advantage over gold. Gold has an advantage over FRNs and fiat currency, and Bitcoin has an advantage over gold. And so his conclusion from that was in the long term, cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin will win. And what was interesting about that was he said Jake asked him, what do you think of the alternative coins? And he said, don't care. They don't matter. Nobody. They never caught up. Bitcoin's been around for 10 years. A bunch of these other ones have been around for 5 or 6. They haven't gone anywhere. Even Ethereum. Let me pull up CoinStats the lame way. I could actually pull it up and do a split screen thing now. Now that we have this working.
Don't get too high tech.
No, we'll do that. And I can add additional screens. We can zoom them while we're streaming and everything. It's really cool. But instead of doing that, I'm just gonna do this the easy way. So there. No, we might not be able to focus that close. It's probably not going to work.
Sounds like we're still getting.
So I'll just read it off on CoinStats right now.
I think we're getting some bad reverb on your end still.
Oh, on my end.
Is the one streaming YouTube is the volume down on it?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah, I don't hear it anymore like I did.
Okay. Yeah. Everything looks good here.
Well, the people that are listening, just shoot another message there if it's not, so we can figure it out. Because we're talking to each other, so it sounds completely different than what you guys are hearing. Obviously.
I think. Okay, give me a test.
Me?
Test.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Looks good.
Hello. Okay,
I think mine's good too. I think I had a secondary source that was kicking. So I think we're good now. We'll see.
Your voice is not following your mouse. It's like I'm watching an awesome kung fu movie, though. That's fine.
Oh.
You know where you go. I will kill you.
Yes. Let me try this then.
Wait till my uncle comes here. Oops, probably get banned from YouTube for that one. Dang it.
You might. There you go. How's that working for you?
It said it's on both ends now.
It's on both ends. It's on both ends.
Okay. So, it's just said that David is good now. So let's see if if it's just mine that's bad, then I'll just won't talk.
Nope, you're good. And I think mine should be all set now too.
Of course, it does. Having the reverb does make it so you don't have to watch it again because you'll hear it 2 or 3 times the first time.
You get to hear it twice. That's part of the plan.
Yes.
Okay, there should only be one of me. There might be a time delay on it, but it should be good. Let's see. Okay, we're good now. I'm gonna put in a comment. Is there any audio delay? Question mark.
Oh no.
Of course, now we're silent, so it's impossible to say. Okay, we're probably good. Let's roll.
Okay, audio delay, yes. But
oh yes, okay. No, I can fix that too. Hang on.
Oh.
Okay, now there shouldn't be. There should be no reverb and no audio delay. Should all be synced.
I gotta look up 1 Kings 19:18 now.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in about why Jake's guest was talking about Bitcoin as opposed to all the alternatives. Josh still has reverb.
Oh, I wonder because I was on YouTube. No, because I'm not signed in.
Yeah, you're not streaming anything. I'm not hearing anything weird from you. I've tweaked the settings a little bit, and you got a headset going on. Let me do one more thing here. Thank you for the feedback, by the way, to those watching.
Yeah, when YouTube's little dealio with the other platform we're using, when they quit that made us have to relearn everything. It's not very fun.
And we have day jobs.
Not very nice at all.
Okay, that might kill it. It might have been feedback back through my mic. Perhaps. Okay.
Yes. Reverb.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we got it. Okay, so Jake's guest, he was saying, I don't care about the other coins. All I'm doing is accumulating Bitcoin, and he was accumulating it the way that somebody like Peter Schiff would talk about accumulating gold. And here was the reason why. So he says, well, I'm inferring some of this, but he basically concluded that the market has already chosen Bitcoin over all the other coins as money. And the market is what chooses money. Technology doesn't choose money, people do. And so technology presented these different coins, and now Bitcoin kind of won. And so he says, if Gresham's law is true, good money drives out bad, and the market has selected Bitcoin and deselected the others, then it's just a matter of time until it gains preeminence among all currencies. And his reason for discounting the other altcoins was that one of the characteristics of money is widespread acceptance, right? Like this is something Mises talked about. If you're the only one who uses something as money, it's not really money because it's not the most widely accepted commodity.
Mm.
So in the Bitcoin, and money is the most widely accepted commodity in that everyone takes money, basically. Okay, so Bitcoin right now, looking at coin stats, I look at all time. Its peak was 18,000 a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, and right now it's at 10,000. So it's down less than 50% from its peak.
Compared to Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah, compared to FRNs, right? Just compared to its own peak and measured in FRNs. That's right. Okay, so now Ethereum. Ethereum's the second most widely used blockchain. So Ether is what you trade on the Ethereum network. So I look at the all-time price. The peak is $1,200, $1,268 per Ether on January 10th of 2018. And what's it at today? It's at $186. So it's down a factor of 6. Bitcoin's down a factor of 2. None of the other coins have really recovered from the last correction. Bitcoin almost has. Bitcoin's real close to being totally recovered from that. And so that was kind of his point in that the cryptocurrency market has picked Bitcoin as the most widely accepted. That makes it the best money because acceptance is a big part of it. The fact that it's technically inferior in a few minor ways is not that big of a deal. And so if you accept it as the winner and then you look at it against the other monies that are available, it wins against those two. Not right now because it's not as widely accepted, but over time it wins against those two. Mm-hmm. And so his long-term strategy was begin accumulating Bitcoin and then just wait for the market to come around, which is very similar to a lot of the accumulate gold and wait for inflation to wash out fiat currency strategies.
And if it does do its, like you said, if everything's mined in 5 years, then it will become even more of a scarce commodity, right?
Yeah, right. The supply is not going to increase ever after a couple more years. And as it's more widely used, yeah, you have a fixed pile of it. Gold doubles let me look at the rate that gold doubles. But there's always more gold above ground, and there will not always be more Bitcoin.
So why is it that gold seems to be able to hold a fairly, let's just say in the last 8 years at least, 5 years, fairly just even keel, even though it's doubling in supply? Let's say every 7 years.
Everything moves. There's no fixed point. And so what you could argue is that inflation in dollars measured against gold is a perfectly acceptable way to measure inflation, but gold inflates too. Mm-hmm. And so you're measuring one thing. You have two things that are moving, but one's moving faster than the other. And you're measuring the distance between two things that are moving.
And kind of what we talked about in our gold series last time, we see, well, you and I both read that thing on Economic Policy Journal with the Robert Wenzel was in that particular article was hypothesizing basically that he thinks that price inflation is what we're going to see more of now than recession. So he was basically arguing against recessionary advocates to price inflation. Well, he's saying it's going to be a price inflation. So that may be one of the reasons why gold is going up, and probably why Bitcoin is too. I mean, because it was just 2 months ago, Bitcoin was 4,000.
Yeah, well, it pulled back a lot, totally, and it's gone up much faster than all the other cryptos.
Yeah.
So it's looking. I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows what's going on, but the trend looks like a safe haven play, which would be an inflation hedge. And it used to be. It's hard to say. The crypto market's also young. Let me see what Digix is doing. Although Digix day is kind of come and gone. Yeah, Digix is still like securely in the toilet. So it hasn't done anything. It's one of the gold tokens. Well, DGX is. Let me look at DGX to be fair. DGX isn't tracking gold anymore. Neither is DGD. So, yeah. As an inflation hedge, they're not tracking gold anymore. Oh, cool. Both ends of our audio are good now. Excellent. Thank you for the feedback. Big help.
Yeah.
We're dialed in.
We would have watched it here in an hour. Like, oh crap! Delete.
We only have 20 minutes of garbage this way instead of an hour.
Hour and a half to yeah. What's your thoughts on with the cryptos, with Bitcoin in particular? So one of the things I hash back and forth with Bitcoin is one thing I like about silver. Let's say is I can still carry it in my pocket. So what do you say to people that are worried about it being a crypto? I mean, we've both heard the whole thing about, oh, well, when the internet goes down, you're screwed. But what are the likelihoods that internet just disappears from our daily life after we've had it for this long?
When the internet goes down, you're screwed anyway.
Right. Thank you. Right.
I mean, sorry.
No one's gonna care about anything. I mean,
no one's gonna come to your house and bow at your feet to worship your precious gold coins when the internet goes down.
Right.
They're gonna be too busy lighting the neighbor's house on fire because they can't watch Netflix.
Yep. Well, I'll be burning down my house if I can't watch Netflix.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's what I would say. Now, the usability. I mean, you and I have both had some experience with trying to use crypto. It's pretty clunky still. And this guy's argument was not that it's super great and ultra usable right now. It was just that it's going to win long term, and so get in early. And he considers now early. And a lot of folks, like when gold hit $1,000 an ounce, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people on the news and stuff were like, "Oh, you'd be a fool to buy gold. It's never hit 1,000 an ounce before. It's the worst buy ever." Well, now it's at 1,500 an ounce. And so whether it's cheap or expensive, really, you don't know because you don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of anytime we're talking monetary. Either policy or currencies or anything like that. It's kind of fun because everyone is guessing. There's some guesswork with everything that everyone talks about. And some of it's a hopeful guess, some of it's a negative guess. So whenever you hear someone downplaying Bitcoin, let's say, then it's just a negative guess. When they're upplaying it, it's a positive guess. Same thing with gold, same thing with Federal Reserve notes. There's more people's lives are invested in the Federal Reserve notes, not just normal people. There's nation states that are invested in it doing well. But It's all a guess. Because, I mean, which is why we always say the Austrian economists are more correct, because they say no one knows. No one knows what people want. No one knows what individuals need. No one knows what individuals want today, tomorrow, the next day. I mean, it's all a guess. And when you see someone investing in something, you can say, okay, well, that person wants that, but that doesn't mean the next person wants it. Doesn't mean this. I mean, we know people that think gold are stupid, but they love Bitcoin. Okay. I don't have a whole lot of angst towards those people because I understand that a little bit, but everyone's got a different choice. And what I mean by that is, usually those are more of the anarchist type boys that we're quite friendly with. So, everyone's different, which is what's exciting about life. It's what makes it good.
It is, and it remains to be seen. Nobody knows how all this stuff plays out, and so like with I'm trying to pull up a chart here. With technology adoption, like you don't know what technologies are going to get adopted. You just don't know, and the whole well, if the internet goes down, I have my gold. Well. At some point in time, clean drinking water was a new technology, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time, metallurgy was a new technology. That's the story of Tubal Cain.
Mm-hmm.
So Cain must have beat Abel to death with a stick or something because they didn't have metal weapons back then, and so everything that humans have developed is technology, including your water purifier that you have for when clean water is no longer available. And so we develop technology, and then it becomes reliable, and then we depend on it as if it's part of nature. And so the anti-technology argument that a lot of gold people have against crypto is really a pretty weak argument. But at the same time, the technology worship, I guess you could say, that a lot of the crypto guys have is a little bit over the top, maybe the other way.
Right.
So
maybe a little unfounded also.
Yeah. I want to see if I can
moderation in everything.
Yeah, Rome style. I want to see if I can bring up a chart here and screen share it. And I think I can. I'm going to go for it.
If this works, I'm out of here. I'm just going to be so excited. I won't be able to talk the rest of the cast.
Let's see if it works.
Double backflip kick to the face. True kung fu.
True kung fu.
While you're doing that, what would the Federal Reserve note be as of course it'd be undesirable if the U.S. government allowed competing currencies to be used, like a state makes, which supposedly states supposed to be able constitutionally, or what was that thing? U.S. Constitution, yeah, something written a few years
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
I know. Oh my gosh, you did it. That's awesome. But supposedly in the Constitution, states were the mint coin, right? And they're only supposed to be able to use gold and silver for money. And so would the Federal Reserve note be as terrible if the government would allow competing currencies? Probably not, because I'm sure the Federal Reserve note would probably be worth nothing.
Well, that's an interesting thing to discuss. In a way, it's a little bit like it's a little bit like the classic state discussion of if there were competition between states, then we'd all be free. Well, there already is competition between states.
Yes.
And you're free to move between states to some extent. And so you could actually argue that there already is competition between money, and we're just seeing it play out. It's like when you go to a game, what's the most important part of the game? The game or the score at the end?
Score at the end.
Right. Well, then why go to the game?
Obviously.
Well, yeah. That's because they wait the whole game before they get any points.
Exactly. They want to keep me in suspense.
Yeah. So you could say the same thing is going on with FRNs and gold and all these other things. They're all competing. They're just competing over a long enough time scale that it doesn't necessarily appear that they're duking it out, but they're duking it out over these societal time scales, I think. I have a chart of some crypto price. I'm going to make it bigger because I can do that and cover my face here. Oh, okay, there we go. I've hidden myself. Up first, Bitcoin price. Actually, I'll put this here. I'll make us a little bit smaller. So here is can you see that, Josh?
Yeah.
Cool. Here is the Bitcoin price all time. So here it is back when, it says all time. It's not all time though. But anyway, basically nothing. Boom, blows up last year, falls back, and now it's back up here. It's it's trading in that up to $11,000, $7,000 to $11,000, somewhere in that range. That is Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, you can see all these zigzags here too, right? Like there was this collapse here, and then there was this one here, and then there was this one here, and it'll probably just do its thing again. Now let's look at something like Ethereum. Here's Ethereum. Ethereum's not looking so good. You have the same action with Bitcoin, and Ethereum's a superior technology. It does all sorts of stuff Bitcoin doesn't do. The network's more robust. It's much faster. The network clears transactions at a way higher rate, uses less energy because it's not designed to be energy limited like Bitcoin is. And it ate it real hard, kind of bounced, and then it's just doing nothing right now. Like the market is moving back into Bitcoin. We can see that the market is moving back into Bitcoin here. Yeah. Then there's Litecoin. Their chart won't go back very far. But Litecoin's had a pretty good price rebound here this year as well. Litecoin's kind of the silver of the crypto market, and Bitcoin's kind of the gold of the crypto market. You can see that in the price.
Is some of that because Bitcoin's more well known? I mean,
yes.
It's been on TV. It's been on. People talk about it in the mainstream media. Donald Trump tweets about it. The IRS comes out with, we need to be studying. The Treasury says something about blah, blah, blah. So it's got to be part of the reason. There's probably 80 or 90% of the people that have heard of Bitcoin, because I know lots of people have heard of Bitcoin and have no idea what a cryptocurrency is. They just know what Bitcoin is. They have no idea there's Ethereum or Litecoin or Ripple or any of these other things.
Totally agree. And that's one of the critical, the big time crypto nerds. The big time crypto nerds don't think that's super significant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They think that the technology is what matters. But of course, money is a social commodity. It's voted on by all the participants. And so the degree of recognition plays a huge role.
Let me jump right in with the crypto nerd thing, because I think might be relevant. A lot of them like it that way, though, because a lot of them really are nerds. And so they kind of like this little secret society thing, like, ha, 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 we know what's going on in the crypto market. No one else does. Yay. And it's not really benefiting them the way it would if it was more common knowledge of the rest of society that there is a cryptocurrency market. You know what I mean? I know a couple guys like that. It's nerdy cool to them because it's like this little society that knows about it, and not everyone knows about it.
Right. Very true. And what's happening is that the Bitcoin went mainstream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the best one, technically, but it going mainstream is it becoming money.
Right.
And so,
which is what the crypto nerds all say they want to happen.
Right.
With all the cryptos.
Yeah.
The competing cryptos. Yeah, that's what they need.
Right.
Do you think with Facebook starting a cryptocurrency, it might get people interested into knowing what it might give more exposure to the rest of the actual market of them?
It might. I think there's some really superficial factors that play a big role too. Bitcoin has coin in the title, and so does Litecoin.
Right.
And so it's really obvious what their intended use is. They had a focused use. Ethereum. What's Ethereum?
I thought it was a website.
Ethereum is a network. And
Ether.
And Ether are the tokens that trade on the network. But Ether doesn't have token or coin or money or anything in the title. And the reason for that is you don't just have to use it as money. It can be used as a bunch of things. But the problem is the messaging isn't super clear.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? It's Ether. Well, that's great as a technology. But if you want people to adopt it widely for a specific use, that's not the best. It's kind of like a marketing thing.
It's what you start your truck with when it won't start in the winter.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is another part of the conversation. I had there's a friend of mine who's running a federated server for EOS, and which is another one of these altcoins. I think EOS is like the 8th biggest by market cap. I could actually look and pretend that it matters. And I was talking to him about what you could use EOS for. It's the 7th biggest by market cap. I was like, well, what can you use it for? And he's like, well, you can use it for a lot of things. EOS is even more flexible and more robust and more efficient than Ethereum as far as its network goes. And so he's like, you could use it for this or this or this or this. And I said, well, is there a market case for any of those? Like, if I'm a company and I want to use blockchain technology to solve a problem, am I going to get a positive return on investment by using EOS to solve that problem? And he said, maybe, but probably not. I said, what's the most obvious use case for the technology then, right now? And he said, probably money. And so I think, Bitcoin never tried to be anything else.
Right.
And it was the first blockchain technology, and then people realized, wow, you could do a bunch of things with blockchain technology. And so then they went off and did a bunch of things with it. And then it turns out that the best use case for blockchain technology is probably money. And so all the altcoins that went after all these other applications, you can do those things, but why go to the extra effort? Just do what you're good at. It's a little bit like gold and silver. You can use silver to do most of the things industrially that you do with gold. Not all, but most. And so, connector platings. If you don't need a connector that's super corrosion resistant, you just need it to have good conductivity and embeddability between the two halves that touch. Silver's very electrically conductive. It's pretty corrosion resistant, and it's really soft. So it works great for coating connectors. If they need to work in space or underwater or something, then yeah, you need gold. But for most uses, silver works fine. And so silver is way more abundant, and it solves many of the same problems. And so it's mostly used to do work. And it's not used as money primarily. Whereas gold gold for other reasons emerged as a better money. I think the same thing's probably going on in the crypto space.
Right. What do you think about? I've read a few reports where I don't remember if it was the Treasury or the Federal Reserve was talking about starting a U.S. cryptocurrency. Have you seen any of those?
I think it was the Federal Reserve. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they already lost.
Yeah. Which would be bad. I mean, we don't want them to get in that game, which I think they would be glad to get in that game where they could digitize. I mean, they want to get rid of, excuse me, they want to get rid of cash anyways. And that wouldn't be a good thing. If everything was just digitized, which most things are anyways. I mean, I rarely use, there are times when cash is used, but usually it's just your debit card or whatever like that anymore, because it's just not handy. Cash is not as handy anymore, but we don't want it to go away. I'm talking dollar bills that you hold in your hand, 100, tens, fives, 50s, whatever. You don't want them to go away, but they just aren't as handy as pulling out the plastic thing and putting the chip in.
No, you don't. You don't boil your water to make it safe to drink anymore because you don't have to.
Right.
I mean, but every time you drink water out of the tap, you're rolling the dice.
Yep.
And if you're in certain parts of the world, you'll get Giardia, but not in North America.
Right.
So it's the same. It's the same thing. Bitcoin is kind of interesting because it is digital, right? It's only digital, and but that's actually what allows it to be decentralized. I don't think any of the monetary theorists ever anticipated that. Right? Most monetary theorists died before the digital currency could exist. Right? For one. But even the ones who were on the cusp, maybe Hayek saw a little bit of that coming, Rothbard a little bit, but not the way it is today. They saw digital ledgers as a way of controlling something. And they saw physical ownership as a way of decentralizing something. But now, this was the point that Jake's guest was bringing up. The digital ledger actually is more decentralized than even the physical distribution. And it's way easier to cut across borders in large spaces.
Right.
So the way a blockchain works is all blocks are on the blockchain. You don't carry your bitcoins around with you. They're on the blockchain. You just have the key that allows you to transfer ownership of the block on the blockchain. There's a private key that allows a given block to be authenticated and transferred in ownership to, another wallet, basically, another address. And so all the blocks are moving around. Everybody has the whole blockchain. You can go online. There are blockchain browsers. You can go online and look at every block on every blockchain. So it's incredibly transparent and at the same time incredibly secure. And I don't think any monetary theorist could have imagined that because the technology just didn't exist. Blockchains it's a new technology. It's hard to wrap your mind around. But yeah.
People, well, since Bitcoin's been media blasted, probably people that have been into it since that probably don't really understand the whole decentralization part of it, or why people even would talk about it's a decentralized currency. They'd be like, huh? It's a what? No, it's I mean, it doesn't really matter if they're into it, but I think there's two different groups that use it. The one is the decentralized monetary people type deal, screw the state. And then there's the investors that are looking for a buck. that they're investing to monetarily gain more Federal Reserve notes, let's say.
Or whatever the predominant money is at the time.
Sure. I mean, Chinese could do it. Chinese people, China peoples could do it. I want to get that right because the congressman probably say the right thing. Those China peoples could probably turn it into for yuans or rambinis or whatever they call it over there. True.
And Habis, yeah. Yeah, well, and eventually the people who are buying Bitcoin to make FRNs might not go back to FRNs.
True.
And that's what a lot of the gold people have said, right? Don't buy your gold so you can sell it for Federal Reserve notes. Buy your gold for the day when Federal Reserve notes are dead. Hurrah!
I'll double hurrah that.
Yeah. But it'll probably be, or it may be something like buy your, hang on to your gold so you can trade it into Bitcoin after the FRN is dead. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows how that will play out?
Well, then too, I kind of jumped the gun with the hurrah there because no matter what, I am still split on the Federal Reserve note death, the death of the Federal Reserve note. Because on one hand, you look at it as pretty much end of U.S. domination of the world, end of U.S. occupation of the world, end of U.S. empire, wars. Federal Reserve note dies, all that goes with it, dead. Not going to happen. That's great. The American state the U.S. state would probably, if not completely die, we would take a real hit to the nose. Oh, sounds wonderful. On the other hand, it would be the same thing as our water purifying devices quitting overnight. And the next day, everyone had to go back to boiling the water. It would be horrible for the whole world. So there's a give and take there. There's a real big give and take. And sometimes I'm of the opinion, personally, whatever. Let it croak. It needs to croak. No matter how hard it is on Americans, it needs to go away because it's being used to kill so many people around the world and control so many people around the world. So come what may, too bad. But there still is a realization my life would be for the worse in the immediate future if Federal Reserve notes disappeared. Everyone's life would be. So it's easy to be in chat rooms or talking to buddies that are anarchists or, believers, real believers, and say, can't wait till the Federal Reserve note collapses. Can't wait for the American state to collapse. It's coming. Look at that. Look at the recession. It's almost here. In reality, it's not so cool. I had friends in the 2008 recession that their life went way down. Their what am I thinking of? Their value of not their value of life, but their livelihoods, quality of life dropped dramatically because they lost so much. Look at how many people lost houses, and it was a correction that had to happen. It was a bubble, but at the same time, we have to remember the human reality. That's not good with any kind of once people are used to using something, become reliant on something, when that's just taken from them, it affects a lot of people in the negative. Which I think, over the 8 years we did the show, working on Patriot Cement's working on almost a few months away from 9 years now. That's why we've talked to people about, try to divest away from don't be totally reliant on this one thing because it's not good. And you shouldn't be relying on one thing anyways in the world of humans. And definitely not in the world of the state. So I just wanted to I don't know why that just popped into my mind, because I was thinking of, you know, Federal Reserve notes disappearing, or, you know, fiat currency disappearing. It's great, but in reality, it's terrible to even think about too.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for. And yeah. Well, it's interesting. The more responsibility you adopt, the less you want to see everything burn.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you disagree with it.
Yep. Well, yeah. That's why I said, you know, on the one hand, I think of U.S. empire and wars. Sounds good. But my neighbors, a lot of our friends, a lot of our family, not good. There'd be an immediate impact on everyone's life that would not be so great. Long term, very good. Short term, not so much.
Yeah, which is kind of the hidden blessing of the slow decline.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on? So we were talking about recession versus inflation, and this is something that Robert Wenzel at Economic Policy Journal brought up. I'll pull up the article while we're talking.
Oh man, and, this is great.
Policy Journal. So there's two ways that a low interest inflationary scenario can play out. One is that if the inflation is reeled back in, you can get economic collapse because interest rates rise, and so nobody can cover their debt. And the other way is that you can continue to just paper over it by making more money. It's essentially like a jubilee year, right? It's a way of forgiving debt. You just paper over all of it. Yeah.
That's a really good way to look at it. I hadn't even thought about that. It's a year of jubilee.
Yeah.
Hey, it's about right every 7 years.
Huh. Right. We're in an ongoing one.
We're there.
So Wenzel was saying he expects inflation, not recession.
Right. Price inflation. Yeah. Well, we've talked about, I think people have seen it, especially in your bulk stores, say your Costco's and Sam's Clubs. The price itself has not gone up. So when you go over to your bag of rice, it's 50-pound bag of rice, was $8. It's still $8, but it's only 40 pounds. There's a funny thing, like all of regular size candy bars that you buy at the store, they're all smaller by a few ounces. Price is pretty close to the same, but it's smaller. Actually, prices for everything's gone up, but we're getting a price inflation. So prices are going up slowly, but the amount that we're buying of anything is shrinking. So we're kind of getting a double whammy. And I remember the first time we realized this, I think it was my wife, was at Sam's Club or something. She heard some other people talking about, like, hey, this is smaller than it used to be. It's the same price. What the heck? You know, and that's probably the last they thought of it, because they're not thinking in economic terms at all, usually. It's like, oh well, that's the way life is. But, you know, it's interesting here. What was it, a week or 10 days or 2 weeks ago now? The Federal Reserve pulled back interest rates again. So they have been going up the last, was it, year, 2 years? Interest rates have gone up by a few basis points, you know, like 25 basis points at a time. So they dropped it 25 basis points. So I think the interest rates went from 2.25 to 2% now. And what's interesting is usually, so we're supposedly in the market boom right now, right? And when everything's boom and everything's good, we usually see interest rates go up, and we're still. And then when there's a decline, interest rates come down. Well, we're supposedly in a boom, and interest rates are coming down. So what people are wondering, some people are wondering, what's the scapegoat? What do you get to do when you have a collapse again or a recession, but you've already dropped your interest rates down to nothing? What do you do from there? And we talked about that, and you said print away, print more money. QE, what would it be? Would it be QE5 now?
Yeah, they came up with a new term, didn't they?
Yeah, you're right, and I don't remember what it is. Because QE kind of has a bad taste in people's mouths when they realize it was like $14 trillion that were printed and given away to various individuals and companies.
Gary North had
Yeah.
He had. I like most of the things Gary North writes, and I don't like some of the things, and that's good. He had
economic stuff. He's pretty right on the money.
For sure. And he's not afraid to air his opinions, but he said that to him, the term quantitative easing brought the following picture to his mind. And it was a picture of someone with an explosive diarrhea problem trying to solve that problem with duct tape. So whenever I think of quantitative easing, I'm always like,
That just came to my mind. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, which was it, Paulson or no? Couldn't have been
he was
Paulson.
Treasury,
That's
right?
too long ago. Yeah. Who was this talking about? We could just throw dollars out of helicopters. Was that the Ben? Was that the Bernanke?
That was the Ben Bernanke. Yeah.
Okay. And which they did in a way. I mean, they didn't. They saved the expense of the helicopter and just used digits, but it's basically what they did. And you and I were talking about, the next time that happens, for one, your interest rates are already down to close to zero. You're at 2. And so when the next one comes, and it's really interesting. I actually read, I can't remember now. I was reading something mainstream, and this guy was like, wow, we're like in another bubble that's going to bust. Like, man, I'm doing us all a disservice, but not remembering, because I remember going, what, you're saying that? Wow, that's not normal. It was one of those everything is awesome kind of guys. And, if people are seeing that, what are they going to do? They're going to have to print, flood the economy with dollar bills, and it's going to have to be way more than last time, because here we are again. And the last time was, I think, 17 trillion new printed dollars. That's a lot. And I didn't get 1 trillion of it, which is disappointing. But it's gonna have to be a lot more.
It will have to be a lot more. I was looking for the new term for quantitative easing. I didn't find it, but I'm on the Wikipedia page for it, as you can see on your screen.
Wow. Man, this is cool.
So we have. Let me make it bigger so everybody at home can read what I have highlighted here.
Welcome to 2016, baby.
Yeah. Thank you, YouTube, for putting us through the pain so we could get to a better tool. Quantitative easing can help bring the economy out of recession and help ensure that inflation does not fall below the central bank's inflation target. And then, risks include the policy being more than effective against deflation. Or not being effective enough if banks remain reluctant to lend and potential borrowers are unwilling to borrow. Oh, no.
Say it isn't so.
Yes. Thank you, Wikipedia. So, interesting, though. Rates never got to zero.
No.
And they can go to zero.
What was it?
So
1.25 or 1.5 then?
yeah, they got to ones. But then if you look at the rate on a mortgage, right? I think the lowest mortgage rates got was like 3.2 or something.
Yep.
And so in Japan, I got a buddy over there, my buddy Steve. He took out a business loan for a new business he started recently. I think the rate is 0.25% on that loan.
What?
Yeah, he basically just has to repay the principal. And it's like a 5-year loan. It's a short-term loan. It's like 0.25%. So,
free money.
Free money. Now, you have to pay it back.
Yeah, right.
Yes. But rates never got that low. And so there's, they'll probably do two things. They'll probably push rates low again. And then, they'll leak money into the economy. I mean, you know what they could do to bring money in the economy? They could start building structures on large sinkholes. And then they could spend a lot of time trying to dig the sinkholes out so that the structures will actually work.
I might be involved in that now.
Right. You might actually be part of quantitative easing 5.
Oh, wow. That's kind of special because that means I'm at the forefront.
Well, that was the whole.
That's cool.
Right. I mean, that was Keynes. That was Keynes' thing. Pay people to dig dig holes and then fill them back in. Well, nature's filling that hole back in.
Yeah, it sure is.
So all you got to do is dig.
Unfortunately.
But anyway, inflation is a way to solve your problem. If people have accumulated too much debt and they can't pay it, inflation solves the problem.
Yeah, and what is the Federal Reserve's nominal inflation's 2%? Is it 2 or 3?
Let me look.
But they want it to be somewhere around 2, I think, which is just mind-numbing to me that anyone would have as a monetary policy an amount of inflation that they want. It's just proof right that the Federal Reserve sucks. It's just stupid.
It's 2 to 2.5. Let's look at it.
Since we can.
Let's take a look at what the rate is. Ooh, I can make it so big. So there you go. So here's, I'll do some, I don't know if my mouse shows up on that, but that's fine. Here's the low, December 16th, 2008. That's the low. And then you see they waited a darn long time before they started ticking it up again. But they have been ticking it up. You can see that quarter of a point. What is that? 250 basis points. Tick, 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 tick. And then now This was the first drop. This January 31st business. This was the first time it dropped. And so they were trying. I think they were trying to get up to something reasonable, like 5%, to suck some of the money out of the economy, and they couldn't do it. Which is what Peter Schiff said. But look at how long they got to draw it out. That's a decade.
Yeah. Wow.
Nobody thought it would last for a decade.
No. I was wrong too. I said they dropped the interest 25 basis, 258 basis points that they dropped interest. Because that's 0.25.
Right. Yeah. So, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
And I think these things we were reading before the show, we were just kind of flopping around with looking at gold and Bitcoin. And if you folks got a computer or a smartphone, I think we talked about this during our gold thing, but the Kitco app is amazing. It's really a one-stop marketplace shopping thing for you to look at. gold, silver, platinum. I'm remembering platinum because it's going the opposite way that it should be. Rhodium, oil, copper, nickel, everything you want to look at in the metals department, and commodities, and it'll show you currencies, and you can pop on a thing there that'll show the US currency versus the rest of the world's currencies, the important ones. You can probably pull up whatever currency you'd like, but it does the top ones like Canadian, Russian, Chinese, Brazilian, stuff like that. So, and also Kitco, I don't know if this is new because it wasn't on my old app, but it also, Kitco now has has all the cryptocurrencies on it. One of the tabs is for cryptos. So it's a one-stop shop to look at everything that's going on. But the news in Kitco is usually pretty interesting. They have a pretty wide variety of opinions and voices on there. They're usually pro-gold people, I'd say, or it's pro-gold leaning. So,
yeah.
But they were discussing that, what gold is doing based on basically what they think gold's basically going up because of what the Federal Reserve's doing with monetary policy right now. Which I think is probably, back to our Bitcoin point, David, it's not just gold. I think people are going towards Bitcoin also because it is the most mainstream cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
People are invested in that too.
Yep, they're placing their bets, and it's funny. It's just wild how interconnected the whole thing is. It's just wild.
Oh, it was the U.S. Treasuries. That's what we were reading. The Treasury's returns are at the 30-year return is at all-time low.
Okay.
And so people are all of the 10-year, 5, 2, and 30 are all nothing. The returns on U.S. Treasuries right now, and they said that people are parking that into gold because gold's going up, and which is what part of the reason why gold's going up.
Yeah, the feedback loops are crazy.
What's interesting too is that if we think about it for a second, Bitcoin started rising at the same time gold did. Pretty much, because remember, just a few months ago, Bitcoin was down to 4,000. Gold was 12 or 13. And they kind of took the upward trend at pretty dang close at the same time. So we have to think that people are using both commodities for the same reason.
That's a little bit what Jake's guest was talking about last week. Was that Bitcoin won as money. Bitcoin won. And so when you vote in the market against FRNs today, that means you vote for either gold or Bitcoin. But in 20 years, you'll probably just vote for Bitcoin. And so he wasn't buying any more gold. He was just accumulating Bitcoin.
Yeah, I've got to listen to that. Remember that, folks. The Damn Woods.
I will link it in the video description below.
Yep.
It was quite good.
I downloaded it to listen to at work, and then I didn't go to work today, so.
Yeah.
Which wasn't too bad either.
No.
I'll save it for the next time I go to work.
Yes. Yeah, I listened a couple days ago. You can just watch it on their website or listen to it on their website too. So.
Or iTunes has it.
Or iTunes or the Play Store. But it was really solid, and it was fun because he's not a dogmatic guy who's like, blockchain technology. He just approached it from a good money drives out bad. What are your criteria for money? What are your criteria for good? So.
Those people are more fun to listen to anyway.
For sure. for sure. You had some comments.
Not that I don't go dogmatic sometimes too, though, but that's all right.
Well, it's fun. It's fun to surround yourself with people who agree every once in a while.
Yeah.
What were you had some comments on the Brazilian real?
Yeah. Which I thought was odd. The dollar is going up on it again. So a few years ago it was 4-1, 4 reals to 1 US dollar. And it dropped down 350, 360, and it's just moved its way back up to 4, which I think is interesting because I was assuming their currency was going to get stronger after their last election. I expected it to drop, and it still may, but I expected it to drop dramatically. As in the exchange rate, I figured it would go up in value quite a bit because their new president's basically a Trump on, not Trump on steroids. He's probably a Trump light, but he's a Trump kind of guy. But
what color is he?
He's brown though.
He's not orange?
Mm-hmm. No. Well, you know what? He gets a lot of sun. He's probably an orange light, a light orange. He's not dark orange like the Trump. But their
here's
policy,
a real chart.
Their finance minister, I think he's called a finance minister, is a Austrian anarcho-libertarian, which is really interesting. And I don't mean that as in, Austria light. He seems to be a hardcore Austrian libertarian anarcho-capitalist across the board on monetary policy and life. And so he's making some pretty dramatic changes to the welfare state there. And not just like, the right wing, when they think of welfare state, they think of the brown people and the black people and the poor people getting welfare. And the left wing thinks of corporate welfare, and we think of military welfare and everything below. He is not so much concerning himself with poor people welfare right now, because he kind of seems he has kind of the Ron Paul theology on that. Remember when Ron was running and they were like, and welfare, and he's like, no, we can't just cut welfare overnight. There's too many people dependent on it. Well, darn sure cut the military overnight, because they don't need it. No one's going to get hurt by that at like welfare recipients, on the personal level. So he's going after corporate welfare and different monetary policies in that area. So we might just be seeing that the real's going down right now because of the immediate effects of the monetary policy. But I would think that in the distant future, if not the near, I imagine it's going to strengthen. I mean, because you remember Ron Paul would talk about that, in the immediate future, you would see a downturn. Things would be tough, tighten the belt. Rawr. Things aren't as good when you just have money flowing like crazy. But in the long term, you'll actually have wealth, savings, things that we like, real wealth. But right now, it's down. I was just really surprised. I just saw it today, and I guess just because I was expecting the opposite. But I think that it will be strengthened in the near future. It might be the long future. It's just a guess. I'm not an economist by any stretch. But if any dollar out there gains some strength against the U.S. dollar, that's going to be one of them. It has to be. If it's not, then all the Austrian theories on money are crap. And I don't think they are. We'll find out.
I have the chart. I'm going to pop that up here. And you get a nice ad for an air purifier over there, too. That's pretty cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense. So I'm looking at a 10-year here. This is US dollars per Brazilian real. So if I'm reading this right, it's $4 per real right now. It looks to me like it has been strengthening. And there was a trough here. But it's doing quite well.
So maybe it's already in the upswing.
Do you know when I heard about their new guy? When did he come into office?
A year ago.
Okay, so right in here.
And right
in here. So it's moved a lot. It was 3-1, and now it's 4-1.
I can't remember the guy's name. It's Portuguese name, but the finance minister. I think he's a finance minister, basically the treasurer, chief economist for the nation. He's also one of the new president's chief advisors. Like, they've been friends forever. And he holds a lot of weight. When he says something to the president listens to him. And one of the things that he was blasted for when he was running for president wasn't just that he was Trump 2.0. It was, well, look at his advisor. He's a nut. And he was a nut because he's a Austrian anarcho-capitalist.
This guy. Paulo Guedes.
But he's doing the right things. That's exciting.
Yeah, that is cool.
It'd be neat if they could stay in office. I mean, not that it's neat that anyone stays in office. Yeah, that's the man. It'd be neat if they could stay in office for, 8 to 10 years to see if his policies do something good.
Yeah, they'll play out over a long time scale, like you were saying.
Yeah. I don't know how long that scale has to be after hundreds of years, 100 years of, or 20 years or 50 years of crap economic policy. Because time preference wise, these things seems like the right thing to do takes a long time, or the wrong thing to do has immediate results. But the right thing to do over time is a lot better for everyone.
Yeah, over time. Yeah, well, that'll be neat. What was interesting about that real chart to me was there's been some up and down, and then the last year since this guy came into office, there's been a huge, 25 to 30% shift upwards in the value of the real, so that's quite good. That's in a world where the U.S. dollar is getting stronger. The Canadian dollar is slipping against the U.S. dollar right now, continually.
Yeah.
So that really bodes well for the currency there. It'll be interesting to see. We'll have to keep our eye on foreign currencies as people bail into U.S. dollars if that happens again, like they did last time.
Mm-hmm. Be interesting. Wouldn't that be interesting if they didn't bail from the Brazilian currency because it was strong?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the good things about him being Trump 2.0 is that he and Trump, the president I'm speaking of Brazil, are very good buddies. Because I think he said that Trump's a great president, so automatically the Great Orange is like, oh, he's a great guy. I don't know anyone better than him. Did you hear that?
Put an arm around him.
Yep, exactly. So he's not going to be doing any embargoes or start any wars or CIA operations or anything like that against them anytime soon. So they'll probably be free to have their economy do what they are hoping that it does without U.S. interference, which the rest of the world isn't as lucky.
No.
Probably including Canada.
Yeah, we got all sorts of Trump stuff up here because of
Trudeau.
Yeah. Didn't affect me particularly. I'm not in the timber industry. I think there was a big timber sanction or something. But whatever. Did you know, little fact, the highest dollar exchange between any two nations is the U.S. and Canada per year?
Huh. No. Makes sense, I guess, since we're bordering, but...
It makes sense because of that. Surprised me because there's only like 36 million people in Canada.
Right, I was going to say that's the only way it would make sense.
Right. I would think that like Russia, China is bigger.
I would think China especially.
Well, it's between two nations only. But yeah, U.S. China, for example.
Yeah. Right, that's what I mean. U.S. China, you'd think it would be huge.
Yeah. Apparently not. Maybe the stat I had was outdated, but I thought that was interesting.
Was it more U.S. into Canadian maples, or the other way around?
This was just the gross value of goods crossing the border.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's got to go down now because of the timber.
Well, yeah. Who knows?
Well, when the Clinton administration did all their crap with the spotted owl back in the day, where I lived in the southern Idaho area, all of the Oregon and Idaho, the timber industries just went. One of the towns we lived in was, the timber mill there was the economy for the whole town, and they had to shut it down. Everyone was broke, and the town pretty much turned into a ghost town, except for a few ranchers. And I know then, the big deal is, where are we going to get the timber? And Canada gladly stepped up to the forefront because apparently their spotted owls were not susceptible to old growth forest as the American, or I should say U.S. North American spotted owl was.
That makes sense.
It does.
Better education system for the spotted owls in Canada.
Well, and free healthcare.
I
think that's probably a lot to it. So if they had problems because they're old growth forest, they could just get free healthcare and go live in a new growth forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually had a friend who lived in Oregon, Jordan Valley, Oregon, and they actually had a family of spotted owls that lived in their barn, which was, the whole.
How old was the barn? How old were the trees the barn was made out of?
I never asked them that. The barn was pretty old, but it wasn't. I don't think it was old growth, but you're probably right. Old growth forest trees that they cut down to build their barn, and the owls knew it.
They knew what was going on.
Their nest was probably in one of the trees.
Yeah.
It's just so stupid.
Yeah. Well,
those are some hard times. Hard times. I knew a lot of people that came on some really, really lost their livelihoods.
Yeah, that is one of the brutal. I mean, tariffs hit the working class of working class folks. So,
right now.
Yeah, right now.
I don't remember if we talked about this in the last deal, but China pretty much put tariffs across the board on soybeans. They will not import American soybeans now. And I have a friend of mine in particular that's his income is soybeans. The biggest one. I mean, he does corn and wheat also, I think, but his soybeans, I think for the last 2 years, are sitting in the silos, rotting. And he's interesting because and Trump, I saw, is talking about doing another farmer relief. So they did that 30 million or 30 billion. Was it billion? Maybe it was just 30. No, 30 million is nothing.
Had to have been 30 billion.
Yeah. What's $30 million? That's could spend that in a weekend. He's talking about doing another one now, I think for 60, to help those poor farmers that are standing behind their man. Because that's better to do that. It's better to print money and give it to farmers that can't sell their commodities instead of letting them sell their commodities to the Chinese, to China peoples. It makes so much sense. And unfortunately, a friend of mine thinks it's great because he knows that Trump's just doing it to make America great again. So he's standing behind him 100% while he can't sell his stuff. And he won't take the subsidy. And I told him, if you really are behind Trump, you need to take the stupid subsidy because that's just stupid. It's stupid to suffer for what he's doing. We have fun talks about Trump. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's the Trump MAGA conversation is a lot like the Bitcoin versus Ether conversation. Okay, so like Ether is more substantive. It's a better network. It's a better technology. It's a better blockchain. But Bitcoin, people from the name, they know what it is. They've heard about it. They've seen it. And I was talking to a friend of mine about the Great Orange a couple days ago, and she was saying, she was talking about something he was doing that was stupid, which is like, take your pick, right? And so I asked her if it was working, and she said, well, what do you mean? I was like, is it effective? And she's like, yeah. I was like, then how stupid is it? Like, what game is he playing? If he's playing the game of public sentiment, and he's playing it crudely, but it's working, who's the idiot? Why would you exert more effort than necessary to get the result you want? And so, and then she was like, well, I'm not. So she's like, I'm not convinced that he's, this such a genius. I'm like, I'm not that convinced of it either. But who says you have to be? I mean, that might be his brilliance, is figuring out that you don't have to be a genius.
Right.
So, and that's a similar discussion to Bitcoin. Maybe it doesn't need to be that good. It just needs to be better and understood.
Right.
So, and he's done that with the tariffs messaging is a great example of that. People understand what tariffs are about. They don't understand what tariffs are about. They understand the narrative that he is trying to do battle for them on the international stage. They understand that narrative. And so when they hear the word tariff, they hear somebody fighting for me on a global scale.
Yeah. Bringing the war home.
Yeah.
Well, even I've read some stuff by some ignorant people talking about how, this is the way it should be anyway, because the federal government used to survive strictly on tariffs before there was income tax, blah, blah, blah. And my comment to them was, we have an income tax. And we have property taxes. And we have sales taxes. And we have blah, blah, blah. And now we also have tariffs.
Mm-hmm. Stack them
Great. Okay, let's have the tariffs and get rid of, and I'm being facetious, obviously. Let's have the tariffs and let's get rid of the federal income tax. Let's go. Let the federal government run on but I mean, the same people are going to be paying it. The people that aren't paying their income tax are the ones that are paying for the tariffs anyhow. Mm-hmm. That's just what drives me nuts. People don't realize the home country that put on the tariffs, those are the people that pay for them. It's mind-numbing.
Yeah.
They think the China peoples are not paying for it.
Right.
Except now China, in their brilliance, are putting on tariffs on American goods, so their China peoples are paying for China's tariffs now. So the whole world is getting poor, more poor.
I do believe this game is as old as money.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only beneficiary I forget what the dollar amount was, but Trump was bloviating about how many extra tax dollars we've gotten since we started this. We've gotten this much more money in the treasury. Ha ha ha. Like, yeah. And who did it come from? Donald. Came from us. And what does it matter? You have a $1.4 trillion deficit this year. You're borrowing $1.7 trillion this year. Your freaking, what is it? Your defense, quote unquote, defense budget is $1.7 trillion more dollars in the next 2 years than it is now. $1.7 trillion more. So your net benefit of your $300 billion in tariffs are it's nothing.
It's good messaging though.
It's working. It's working. I mean, why not? Because the people that love him are going to keep loving him and love him more because of it. And the Orange Man bads, they just don't like him because he's orange. Doesn't matter what he does.
Orange Man bad, Orange Man good.
Yep. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
Yes. Well, we'll keep our eye on gold and crypto in the meantime.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have not yet done a tariff show.
We should.
We will do a tariff show next week.
We dance around it a lot, but we should explain it.
Yeah.
Also, we'll do maybe the week after. So I'd like to do a culture war one again.
Okay.
All right, maybe we haven't actually done one, but maybe not just.
We
should do one. Go ahead.
We did an audio podcast on cultural Marxism.
Oh, that's right. It was the audio one.
Yep.
We should do one about the people that think Orange Man bad versus Orange Man good. Talk a little bit about the democratic socialists versus the alt-rights. Not even the alt-rights, because I don't think that all pro-Trumpians are alt-right. Definitely not. But it's interesting that the clash seems to be, it almost seems like a frog boiling in water type of thing. Slowly boiling. And it's getting a little bit more, it's getting more violent.
Yeah, I've heard it termed a silent civil war or something like that.
Yeah.
Or a cold civil war. I don't know. Something.
The next election, when Trump wins by a landslide, is going to be pretty interesting. It'll just ratchet it up a little bit. The Higgs ratchet effect is going to probably quadruple.
Probably will. Yeah.
Yeah, but tariffs, that'd be great. Because like I said, we dance around a lot, but we don't really talk about cause and effect.
Let's do it.
And we've had people on the show that have called in and said, you guys, well, because we don't spell our names in capital letters, we don't understand that the tariffs are a good thing and why they're a good thing, how we got to stop the China peoples from doing what they're doing. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. And it actually surprised me, to tell you the truth. Yeah. It surprised me that somebody actually argued that. There's a few people. So it needs to be confronted and decimated in Patriot Lament style.
Let's do it. I got it for sure. I got it on the whiteboard for next week, and we got our stream set up pretty much dialed. Kind of.
It's nice. Thanks for going through all the effort of figuring it out again.
Yeah, we had to change computers and stuff, but we'll get it working on the laptop too, and then we'll be portable. So, but it's been good.
Yeah.
We will catch you all next week. If you've hung on this long, if you're at the end of the show here, again, be sure to like and comment below, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't given a subscription button a click yet. And
thanks again for the feedback when we start off here so we can get this thing straightened out.
Oh, yeah, totally. Thank you for the audio feedback. Big help. Cool. Well, we'll catch you guys next week.
See us.